this is an industry where you get to go out, you get to have the exact same opportunity as anybody else. There's just as many doors out there. There's just as many potential customers out there as there is for you as the top guy at Solar Pro.
This is the Solar Disruption Theory.
All right, here we are with another episode of the Solar Disruption Theory podcast. My name is Chad Towner. Today, we've got one of the coolest dudes you will ever meet, my best friend. I've known him for 20 years. His name is Tyler Jackson. He is the president at Solar Pros, the largest solar sales organization in the United States. Ty Jackson, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing well. We've been talking about doing this for a long time. Good to finally have you here. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Dude, we could talk about a million things. And I do want to hit on some really important stuff, but we have so much history. I've known you for so long. We met as LDS missionaries. The very first day I met you, do you remember what happened?
I do, unfortunately.
What happened?
I got a speeding ticket that day.
You were going like 60 in a school zone.
It wasn't that fast. Chill out.
But in your defense, it was a construction zone. And I think I had you totally distracted. We were goofing off about something. But yeah, we immediately hit it off. And then you got assigned to kind of be my babysitter for a little bit of the mission. But you turned me around.
Yeah, look at
me
you
out.
now, man. Look at you now. Yeah,
Look at me now.
I mean, this upcoming, to start off, you're going to have a birthday this upcoming week.
I'm almost 40.
40 years old.
Yeah.
You think about that. I've known you for 21 years now.
Yeah.
Best friends.
Yeah.
Not too many weeks have gone by that we haven't spoken in those 21 years.
Yeah.
And look at you now, dude. You're crushing life.
Just hosting podcasts. That's all I want to do.
You're a phenomenal father to your kids, amazing husband to your wife, dude, and you're absolutely crushing life. We're proud of you, man.
Hey, who's doing the interview here?
My bag.
I appreciate that. No, that's actually what I wanted to get into, actually. So I've known you a long time. I've seen you through a lot of ups and downs. We've pretty much been working together since like 2009, 2010. And, like you said, probably hasn't been too many weeks that have gone by, which we haven't been on the phone, if not days, right? Generally, we're talking every day. And, we've seen a lot. We've been through a lot, right? So you started in the door-to-door sales industry, got home from your mission, sold your first summer. You were part of that famous Houston, Texas, John Frampton Platinum office. Right? You're still riding the coattails of that one summer, aren't you?
I still tell everybody about the 4,000 accounts that we sold in 2009.
Okay, how many of those would have been legit deals today, though?
Oh, you gotta cut that number in half, man.
At least. Well, I think if it wasn't for that office, that was the office that put Platinum on the map, and it was also the office that took Platinum under.
That or some kind of Ponzi scheme thing that was going on. But yeah, one of those two. Yeah.
A lot of ups and downs. So then you shifted over and started doing solar, you went and did alarms with Adam Shands and the Silverline Group. That's where I kind of got back to work with you again. We did that for a couple summers. And then I graduated college and I went to school to be a pilot. And you were on the verge of going all in with that kind of alarm residual program that eventually became Alder. But instead, you and I decided, hey, let's start our own business. What was that? You had a good thing going. What made you want to start your own business in 2012?
Man, I mean, there was a lot. Yeah, we did have a good thing going. We went out, you and I, we sold in Mississippi, Alabama, man,
Arkansas.
Some of the best memories that I have, selling these little tiny towns, 3,000, 4,000 people in these.
Some of the best people in the United States. I love the Delta.
I gained weight. Everybody was trying to feed you. Everybody was trying, come on in, come tell us about it. But we crushed it. And I think the main thing is we've been through the ups and downs of sales, but at the end of that summer, you and I had an office, and we went out and we did a little bit over 2,000 installed alarm accounts, and then came back expecting this big back end check, and the company looked at us and said, "We don't have the money to pay you.
We can't pay you." Yes, I remember that. So then, yeah. So I think a lot of people who've been in door-to-door sales, you've been in it long enough, you've had that experience, right? Like you're either let down in one way or another. Somebody owes you money, they go out of business, or they don't pay you, or whatever. And there's just been a lot of that in the industry, and that was a tough pill to swallow. So why at that point do you go and start your own business versus like, oh my gosh, I'm owed all this money, I didn't get it? That seems like the worst, most riskiest time to go and start a business.
Yeah, I think for both of us, it was one thing for us to not get our paychecks, right? But I think the hardest thing to stomach was looking at sales reps, looking at people that relocated for 4 or 5 months, working out in the heat of humidity out there in the South, and then to have to look at those guys and say, hey, you're not going to get the back end that you expected either, the paycheck that you expected.
Yeah.
And so credit to a lot of us, credit to you, credit to I think both of us, how our character was, is it was like, man, how do we look at these guys and tell them, hey, we put them in a position where they didn't get money. And so we started looking at different avenues. There was some bigger alarm companies that we were looking at those avenues and saying, hey, can you guys maybe give us a bonus to go back and pay these guys the checks that they were owed? And then I think ultimately we looked at ourselves and we said, we never want to put ourselves in that position. We don't ever want to have our sales reps be in that position again. And one of the ways that we can control the sale, control the way that the money is distributed is let's go do this ourselves. And so we took a risk and went and said, let's go do it ourselves. And we did.
Yeah, no, I remember that decision, and that was our logic, was like, hey, we don't want to be beholden to somebody else's bad decisions. And if we're going to fail, it's going to be because of us, right? And so, and I remember, that was tough. That was hard. And we're writing personal checks to our friends and family members and people who came out and trusted us, and emptying our savings accounts just to make good with what happened. So we didn't stay in the alarm business very long. I was all in on alarms. We thought we had this residual model built out and this plan, and I thought we had cracked the code. But our first summer, you called me and you're like, hey, I think we need to switch to solar. And I was like, bro, we just got this thing going. What are you talking about? What? It was the best decision we ever made. I'm glad I listened to you, but I was like, what the heck, Ty?
For sure. Yeah. We were doing well, right? We had some kind of some ups and downs with selling alarms, but we were doing well. And my older brother had started a solar installation business.
Yep.
Solcius. It was one of the first installation.
Hey, back then, it was Invictus.
That's right. It was Invictus.
I remember that poem up on the wall. That's how far back that goes. But yeah. Solcius.
I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of myself.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. So you and my older brother had kind of been saying, hey, I've got this installation business, but he never knew sales.
Right.
I never knew the sales side of it. And so he was like, hey, come take a look at this. Maybe you guys can incorporate solar into your alarm business. And to be honest, I kind of had my blinders on too.
Yeah.
I was like, no, we're doing well. We're getting this thing going. We're wanting to build this alarm business up, but kind of almost out of a favor to go out there to look in Southern California. Let's go on a vacation. We'll go check it out.
Yeah.
And ironically, I still remember the very first customer that I sat in with him. He wanted to show us a cell.
Yep.
He was like, just come check it out. We went into this home. Guy didn't turn on his AC for his bill was next to nothing, right? We're in there just sweating. I felt like I was back out selling alarms again in Mississippi with how hot his home was.
Was that the guy that always wanted more panels? He just kept saying, I think I need more panels.
I think I need more. Yeah. And we're over there looking at him going, hey man, your bill is next to nothing. But he kept on saying, no, I think I need more panels. But I remember it was so hot in there that he still had the plastic on his chairs.
Yeah.
And you kept jokingly moving
I've never
around.
been so hot in my life. I was
adjusting
sweating
your
on those
legs,
chairs.
and your legs were just sticking to the plastic
Yes.
on those chairs. But yeah, that was the first customer. I remember he ended up showing us another deal with a guy that I can't remember. I think he was like a doctor or a lawyer. It was like it was in Rancho Cucamonga. And I remember it just clicked for me watching those first couple sales that it was like, man, we've been selling a product that we've been having to really kind of push on people, like something that it's like
Taking money out of their pockets.
taking money out of their pockets. We're trying to convince these old ladies, hey, if you fall, you got this medical device, you might be able to push it.
Those still work. But yeah, it's one thing to be pitching a product that takes money out of someone's pocket and it shifted, right? And we're like, oh my gosh, we can put money back into these people's pockets. I remember I had gone home, or I went back because we had our whole summer group that we were running for alarms, and you called me and you're like, dude, I just got out of a house. We closed it, and the commission on this house, on this deal is like, it was like 10 times more than what we made on a alarm project. And I was just like, no way. No, that's not possible.
And then the coolest part about it was,
and I saved him a bunch of money too. And I was like, what?
and it was a logical sell. It was something that like I said, you didn't have to necessarily push on people. Hey, maybe a break-in's going to happen at some point. It was like, hey, let's look at these numbers. Let's look at what the utility's going to do. Let's look at what your bill, what's going on with your bill. And it was logical.
Yeah. And we talk about this on other episodes. It's like you get to a point where you've explained everything to the customer, and when it finally clicks, the thing they always say every time is like, oh, why doesn't everybody do this? Right? Like and then at that point you're like, well, yeah, because they don't know about it, because just like you, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, like you haven't been informed. And so you got into solar, and then we ran that for several years, right? And we made a lot of money. We lost a lot of money. There was a lot of ups and downs with that business. I think the hardest point was in 2016 when Sun Edison was supposed to buy Vivint, and then they went out of business like a month after the announcement was made. And then all the financing and funding just stopped. And it was just like, man, here we go again, right? And, I think looking back, like those were some of the best experiences I've ever had just trying to like run a small business, and we didn't do anything on like a massive scale, but like the principles are the same, whether it's a big business or a small business, right? It's like, they're very basic things. Do what you say you're going to do, right? And put the customer first, build good partnerships, don't burn bridges, like those types of things. I think we're so critical. I say this all the time, right? Like, I don't think we'd be near as successful at what we're trying to do today if it wasn't for that training ground we went through running our own business. Man,
the lessons that were learned, like you look at it, what does it take to stay in business when clawbacks happen? What do you do to stay in business when install timelines get stretched out? As a sales rep, when we were sales guys, we were just like, I don't care. The company needs to pay me. I need more shirts. I need
pay
more
me
sweats.
I'm leaving. Right?
Yeah. And
didn't I say that to?
I might have heard that a time or two. Yeah.
I used some more colorful terms back then, but it was like, and then now at that point when that was happening to us as business owners, it was like, wait a second, we got to figure out what we're going to do. Now we're getting clawed back. Now our installs are being dragged out, and and you get squeezed.
Yeah, we got to see the other side of it. We got to see what it looks like to dip into savings accounts.
Yeah.
And make sure that people are paid, or we got to see the other side of it of what does it take to make this office space, payment, or these apartments that we put all these apartments in our name, and now we got to make sure that we're surviving, through the turbulent times of finance companies or drawn out install timelines or clawbacks. And so it's completely shifted my perspective on what companies need to do to stay afloat, right? And what they need to do to thrive. And absolutely, those lessons I think have put a different perspective now in my position. I'm sure certainly in your position of how to protect the company, how a healthy company is so good for the sales reps.
Yeah, if the company's not healthy, then the sales reps don't have a place to sell for. So fast forward, you worked for a couple of other solar companies, and then in 2019 you came to Freedom, and I came 6 months prior, introduced you to Brett, and I remember you flew out here with your son. We went sailing, and I was like, dude, I think Freedom is the spot. Where you were at, there wasn't really much of a future in Texas at the time. And so walk us through what that was like.
Yeah, I was with a company that, I'd tried to make Texas home. So I was out here running, to rewind just a little bit, we were out here running solar in California. And my daughter was born with kind of a pretty severe medical, disability that we're going to deal with for the rest of our lives. And she's a huge blessing to us, and I wanted to make sure that I was there to be there for her and help her out through, all the trials that were going to come with this life-changing, disability that happened. And so you were cool enough for me to say, hey man, I think I need to be closer to my family. And so I went to go kind of start solar as much as I could in Houston. And I went and I worked with Solar City for a little bit. Ty Bastian was actually was my boss at the time. He got me on board with I was the first one hired to run kind of the door-to-door division in Houston, and then transitioned to launch in Texas for Sunrun. And so it was like brand new with Solar City, brand new with Sunrun. And then you came to me and said, hey, let's do this a third time. Do you want to try and launch Texas, a third time with Freedom Forever?
Yeah.
And the company that I was with, I said Sunrun, but the company I was with was exclusive with Sunrun, and it looked like them and Sunrun were going to part ways.
Yeah.
And out of that transition of them parting ways, like you said, it didn't really look like, unless I stayed with Sunrun, that there was a future for me with solar in Texas. And man, it's crazy how quick time flies. I can't believe it's been 5 years. But at that point, I came down, I talked to Brett, and he was like, we're in 4 states. I think Freedom at the time was in California, Nevada, Arizona, Illinois, and Brett was starting to talk to me about Texas.
Yep.
And I remember he was like, can you move to El Paso? Like if you go to
because we wanted to install from Arizona.
Yeah, he's like, it's close enough that I think our Phoenix crews can get out there. And I was like, man, I'm not moving to El Paso.
Yeah.
So Brett was cool enough to say, hey, we will go all in on you. We'll go all in on Texas. And for me, man, just we joke about it because I think I sat down with Brett for like 8 hours that day. And I think within the first 30 minutes, I could immediately tell this is the guy.
Yeah.
Right. This is the guy that wants to build. This is the guy that has a vision. And I was like, I'm in. I think I'm I'm behind whatever it is that he's doing. I'm behind it. But I loved it because a lot of the companies in the past, they looked at Texas and they were like, it's a low margin state. I remember Sunrun was like, we don't really care about Texas. It just kind of helps us with our panel pricing because the systems are big enough. But Brett had a different vision for Texas. He was like, man, I want to go all in. We want to be the company that dominates. We want to be the company that takes over Texas. And he was, I don't know why he saw that in me, but he thought that I could be the guy that would help, Freedom take off in Texas. And we did. We exploded in Texas right out the bat.
Yeah, I mean, I say this, and you may or may not agree with it, but I tell people like Tyler Jackson is the father of solar in Texas. Like you put solar on the map in Texas. Like and everybody knew that Texas was kind of a ticking time bomb because of the Google roof data, and everyone said how good Texas was supposed to be, but utility rates were really low, right? There were a lot of homes because it's unregulated that homes were paying 8 cents in some cases, right? And yes, there's others that were paying 14, 16, but it was hard to compete with utility pricing. I remember I went out and knocked with you one time, and like people had no idea what solar was. They're just like Jupiter, like solar.
They used to always think there were solar screens, like solar screens for my window.
Yeah.
We used to have to carry around a picture of solar panels.
And then looking back, I mean, it's been several years now, but like I bet you the vast majority of people in the state of Texas knows what solar is and has probably been approached at least a couple of times about the economics of going solar. So it is pretty cool that, you know, you essentially create something out of nothing. But, you know, over the last 5 years, we've seen a lot. We keep saying this, but like, you know, partnerships don't always work out. It's not always perfect. It's hard to be in, you know, this is a hard business. We've been through COVID and all the supply chain disruption, and, you know, a lot of the advertising companies or social media will change their algorithms. Then all of a sudden our advertising and our leads start changing. Like, there's always these changes. Inflation, interest rates, they all have this huge effect on solar. It seems like it's just, yes, it affects every industry, but it just seems like it's so much more pronounced in so many ways with solar. Maybe it's because it's still a new industry. But, you know, the partnership with one of our larger dealers ended up not working out where you were working. And you know, it was clearly not heading in the right direction. And you were like so bought in on Brett Bushy. It was like, you're just, what is it? What is that about? Like in 2019 and in 2023, you made the choice to just go all in on Brett Bushy. What's that about?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my first sale that I made in Texas. I called you after and I was like, hey, I just got one. I got a sale. It was a referral. I got one.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do we do now? And you're like, can you get like 4 or 5 more? And we'll see if we can get a site surveyor on a plane to come out and do some surveys on those sales. And I was like, we'll see what we can do. But man, like, so going from that, and then, you know, a few years later, you know, going from 40 sales reps to having hundreds of sales reps in your network, people being attracted to this offer that Freedom has, the lower baselines, the better pricing. It was clear that this was a different it was a different product. It was a different culture. It was clear, and it was attracting so many people to it, right? And so for me, the minute that I got to sit down, and I mean, it wasn't the proof was in that. Like I like I said, I think my top month that I had before meeting Brett Bushy was like 80 to 100 sales within the network that I oversaw. And then we quickly expanded that to 1,000 sales in a month.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So going from 80 to 100 to 1,000 sales in a month. And a lot of it was Brett's, you know, vision. And a lot of it was, hey, we're going to have 50% market share in America. We're going to have the lowest baselines. We're going to serve the customers. And for me, it was like, I don't know if it was, hey, I need to go all in on Brett. It was like, man, I'm living proof of this.
Yeah.
I've seen, you know, my checks have never been bigger. The amount of sales that you know, the guys that I oversee, they've never sold more. We've never recruited more. We've never built more. Why would I leave this?
Yeah.
You know, why we're going to do it. Everything that Brett has ever said, you know, it's come into fruition, you know, in a lot of cases. And so it's just, it's like, man, why would I've always been behind that. You know, he's inspiring. I don't know if you've had, anybody that's had a chance to sit down with Brett, you need to have a leader that has a vision, that knows where they're going. They have a singular focus. And that is Brett. That is Brett to a T, right? He's always, I mean, sometimes he says, hey, we're going to go hit this big goal. I don't want to just hit a home run. We're going to knock this thing.
He's winding up for a Freddie Freeman grand slam.
And I'm here for it, man. Chill out on the Freddie Freeman stuff. You know I'm a big Yankees fan, so chill out. But yeah, I mean, I'm here for it, man.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of people that are swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
You know, and so you talk about the partnership that we had and how it didn't work out, and some people didn't align with Brett's vision. I've never vibed with the cynics, right? The cynics, they don't contribute.
Yeah.
You know, the doubters, they don't really achieve much, right? And so, for me, if you're a skeptic, you're not creating, right? And so for me, I'm just like, I'm living proof of this. I've never been doing better. I'm thriving right now. I'm all behind this vision. Everything that Brett told me he was going to do with Texas, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Now we're doing it in Florida. Now we're doing it in Arkansas. Now we're doing it in all these other states, and we're hitting home run after home run. The momentum is here. Why on earth would anybody jump off that train? Right? Why would you be a doubter on that? We're achieving. We're accomplishing everything. And so, but also Brett has done it with integrity.
Yeah.
Right? He's done it with, I look at him and he's never betrayed me. He's never, every check has always come.
Right.
He's always been there for, to uphold me or to follow through on everything that he said he would accomplish in Texas and beyond.
I think a lot of people outside of Freedom feel like there's like a cult following with Brett. I obviously have my opinions, but you said a few weeks ago, you're like, hey, I've learned this a long time ago. It's Brett's world. I'm just happy to be living in it, right? And, I know you were just joking, but I think people think that that there is this like blind cult following, but in reality, it's very mathematical, right? It's like if the guy makes enough predictions that come true, and it's not 100%, but it's probably twice as high as the next closest person that I know in terms of their ability to see what's coming and be proactive. And he has the background and the business acumen and the track record like he does. At some point, you can't deny it. You can't refute that he knows what he's doing, right? And so at that point, you got to decide, all right, this guy is clearly in a whole different stratosphere of capability. Do I want to compete against that? Do I want to fight that? Or do I want to, humble myself and just join in and buy in? And, that's a decision that everyone else, needs to make. But it is funny. It is interesting for me to see the cynics and the critics, like you say. I don't understand it because, like, the track record does not line up with what the haters like to say and spread, right? But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who hate the New York Yankees. There's a lot of people who hate any dominant. I hated Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Right. I don't like LeBron. So I guess so there is some wiggle room for. I got to give a little bit of grace to those people, but with Brett, I think you nailed it. Like he's delivered, and he's got a bigger vision than anyone else I know. And so, would you rather buy in on someone who has a small vision and follow them, even if they don't? Even it's like, I don't know. It is interesting. So I wanted to ask you, because we've been spending a lot of time talking about like the business side, and the last question on this is: now you're at Solar Pros. You guys are absolutely dominating. I feel like even as big as you are, one of the criticisms I hear a lot is like, oh, well, they're too big. I'm plugging into this thing that's, I'm a small fish in a big pond. What is your reaction or response to that?
Man, it's funny that because we hear that as well.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, I was on a group text today with you, and we just barely put up our Freedom Pros signage, at our headquarters today.
Yeah.
And it reminded me the company is still less than 2 years old.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that people are looking at us going, they're too big.
Yeah.
Like we're not even 2 years old, and so
that is crazy.
It's kind of crazy to think about. But what's funny about that is I mean, first off, that we're even getting that we're too big. That just shows, I don't think there's ever been a solar sales company in the history of solar that has grown at the rate that Solar Pros has.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think, there never has.
Yeah.
There's never been a company that has done, in such a short period of time what Solar Pros has done. I mean, we're going to have, I think, 25,000 installs this year, and this is barely our second year in business. It's unbelievable. And so with that, I mean, to kind of go back to even on some of the things that you were saying, like with the right vision, the right mission, the right leader that's installing that vision, whether that's the leaders at Solar Pros, whether that's Brett, ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things if you are bought in on that culture. And so that's what I see with the Solar Pros. You know, like I sit down with recruits all the time, and I was talking to a recruit yesterday, and he actually used that line. He's like, man, I hear you guys are so big. You know, why would there be a spot for me? And me, I look at it. I played sports growing up.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of sports, you know, and I was telling him, I was saying, hey, if you're looking to go, let's say you're a college athlete, you're looking to go play football somewhere. Where do you want to go play football at? If you have the opportunity, you want to go to a big time school. You want to go play in the SEC. You want to go play at the University of Texas, right? You want to go play somewhere where you're going to elevate your game. You're going to want to go play somewhere where the competition is at its biggest level, right? Where the spotlight is on you, right? That's where you want to go play. Why? You go to one of those schools, you know, they've got their program dialed in. They've got the best nutrition program. They got the best weightlifting program. You know, they've got mental coaches that are extracting everything they possibly can out of their players. And I feel like we are doing that exact same thing at the pros. Come plug into the program with the pros, and we've got that program. We've got that system. We've got the best competition platform. I know all these companies talk about, oh, we got competitions. Nobody has a competition platform like the pros. Plug into the training program. We just hired the greatest trainer, I think, in the solar industry to run the training program for the pros. We've got the greatest culture. You look at the pros and you're saying, man, you immediately when you walk into it, you're like, man, I got to be on my A game. There's momentum here. People are joining. People want to be a part of this. I better recruit as well, right? Because everybody, if I don't go out and recruit, they're all going to go to these other teams here at the pros, right? I got to go out and go sell because everybody around me is selling as well. The momentum is on our side, and I've never seen anything like it. It's a freight train that's not going to be stopped, you know? And so I look at it and it's almost laughable that people are like, they're too big. I mean, you and I just talked about 5 years, Freedom was in 4 states.
Yeah.
Now they're in 35 states. In the next few years, Freedom will be in 48 states, 50 states, right? In all 50 states. And so, and Brett has the track record that he continues to open and launch more and more states. And so is there an opportunity to grow? Of course, there's a huge opportunity to grow. You know, we're not too big. We're big because we've got that right program. You're going to come in and be a part of the best where everybody is selling. There's that momentum, you know, there's the culture, there's the training, there's the competition, everything from commissions are dialed in, right? It's literally, you're going to get the most out of yourself by being a part of that platform.
So you guys, and that's a good analogy, but you know, if you're going to be like the third string and play for Alabama, that's probably where they feel like, oh, well, you know, great, I'm going to get the best of these programs, but if I'm just going to be this guy. And so I think with solar, the thing that it's really important to remember, and you touched on it, is even if you're a small fish in this big pond, the pond is 4% of the United States right now, right? 4% of the U.S. has solar. So if you're a small fish in what we think is a big pond at Solar Pros, the United States needs to 20x its overall solar installations, his lifetime solar installations. It needs to 20x what it's done over the last 20 years. The opportunity to grow into new states, new cities, it's laughable. It's laughable, but I think people have experienced it in other businesses, and so that, you know, it's their perception, it's been their experience. But with this, it's different because solar is still so new, and we all forget that because we think we're this established company. We think this is an established industry. It's not, and we're not. Like, I feel like every day I wake up, I feel like I work for a startup. Like, yeah, we've, you know, we run things like a business, and it is more we run like a normal business, but the fact that like the amount of adapting and pivoting and like quick strategic shift that we have to make on a regular basis to account for these different things that are happening, it feels like a startup. It's like we have to continue to iterate and reinvent ourselves just to like navigate the current environment in the solar industry. But in order to even thrive, you got to really, really be on your A game and see what's coming down the road, because it has been very, very disruptive for really every solar company in the industry. But I've never seen it like it is right now, where a lot of those failures, which is sad, and it's not like I'm not celebrating every time a company goes bankrupt, but those sales teams are flocking to freedom. And I think it's because of all the things that you pointed out.
Yeah, and with that opportunity, I mean, to go along with what you said, you're not coming over here to be third string. Like,
yeah,
this is an industry where you get to go out, you get to have the exact same opportunity as anybody else. There's just as many doors out there. There's just as many potential customers out there as there's for you as the top guy at Solar Pros.
Yeah.
Right. So you get to go out and you get to shine. But I mean, to go along with that analogy, what do people go and play for on Saturdays at Alabama? They eventually want to hopefully play on Sundays.
Yeah.
Right. They have bigger goals. They want to move on and go do something else. And with the right program, you're going to have a better opportunity to go play on Sundays. You're going to get the most out of yourself. You have the exact same opportunity here that anybody else has. And so you got to dial into the program. And there's so much opportunity, like you said, 4% from 5 states to 35 states, to go into 50 states. We're a company that's not even 2 years old.
It's crazy.
It's crazy the opportunity for growth that is still here, and so and we have momentum on our side. People that are those companies that are failing, they're flocking to the pros. They're flocking to freedom right now. It's because of our mission. It's because of the things that we got that singular focus, and a lot of it starts with freedom, and that aligns with the pros' vision as well.
Yeah. No, it's been amazing, and I think that will continue to grow and build. I want to talk. So I wanted to get the whole business history out, because like it really is an incredible story. Like you guys have crushed it, but a lot of it, like we talked about, you're applying the things. It feels like almost like all the things that we've been through. Starting out knocking doors, experiencing what it's like to run your own team, run your own company, experience the hardships of clawbacks and finance companies not paying you and installs going disastrous, etc. All this stuff feels like it's like prepared you, right? And you touched on it earlier. I want to go back in time on the non-business, on the personal side, and talk a little bit about something that was happening during all of these, chaotic business ups and downs. You've had some personal setbacks that I think people need to hear about.